I've received this video by email at 7 o'clock this morning. This is groundbreaking. So I decided to share it with you. So let's begin.
And so I tell that story to really urge you and encourage you and to challenge you that when you ever see somebody doing good, acknowledge it. When you see somebody in the way that they just show up on a daily basis and their attitude and their work ethic or a myriad of things that you could acknowledge them for, like take that time to do that. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sales Wolves podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Jack Harris, and I am a sales wolf. Ow! That's right. Another episode of the Sales Wolves podcast, and I am here. In this episode, we're going to talk about, what was it again? Words of affirmation. And we will not be going through all the 5 love languages today. But I want to talk about being intentional with your words, and more importantly, being intentional in the way you acknowledge other people. This is something over the last few weeks that I've become very focused on, very intentional about, is just acknowledging people. And it's not always in a way of showing appreciation, like someone did something, they did a good job at something. Hey, that was great. Or, hey, thank you for doing that. It's more just acknowledging people for the way they show up, acknowledging people for the work that they do and have done, a lot of which is behind the scenes, and just acknowledging the integrity and just the way people operate. And a lot of this, for me, there's a prompting that happens that for me is from God that tells me like, hey, you need to acknowledge that person for this. And I can transparently say throughout my life that I haven't always, acted on those prompts. But I feel like I'm in a really, really good place now to not only hear the prompting, but to immediately react and to immediately act upon it. And I wanted to share just one story because it just happened to me yesterday. That was such a huge affirmation for me that I was doing the right thing in these words of affirmations and acknowledging other people. So we had a Modern Man live stream event this past Friday, or I guess by the time this comes out, it'll be 2 Fridays ago. And we had the 5 Modern Men panelists. We were on Zoom, and then we live streamed it on Facebook, and people from the Modern Man group, which now has over 700 men in it, jumped on the live stream and they asked questions and just commented along as we talked about kind of everything that's happening with this COVID-19 crisis and just kind of the state of where we're at and how we're handling it as modern men. And about, I would say, 3/4 of the way through it, I noticed that there was a guy that had commented on a couple of things throughout the live stream. And instantly I felt that prompting to acknowledge this guy. Me and this guy haven't really spent much time together one-on-one. We've never hung out, on a regular, or I don't think we've ever hung out ever before. But I've been supporting his business since almost day one. It's one of my favorite restaurants. It's now a chain of restaurants here in the upstate. And I've just always admired not only the way this guy operates his business, but just the integrity behind it. Just little things like he plays Christian music inside this restaurant, which I've always thought was so unique and different. And the way the employees interact with customers and the way they've grown and just, the family man that he is. And so I had this prompting to acknowledge him. And so during the middle of me talking about something completely off topic, I just took that moment and for about 3 or 4 minutes, just called him out and said, hey, I just want to acknowledge this guy. Man, I just love what he's doing. I've been to his restaurant multiple times just in the past week, if not many times over the last month. And when I walk in there, all the people that are working are so seem to be joyful, and they're so appreciative of having business coming in, where, quite frankly, a lot of restaurants right now, it's doom and gloom when you walk in, and you can feel it's a heavy sense of the devastation that's happening to the restaurant industry. And I said, this guy is a man of integrity. And I think at the end, I even said, I love him. I was like, I just love this guy. I love what he's all about. And in that moment, I know obviously that he felt good, hearing that unsolicited, unknowing that would be something that would be brought up in this conversation. But I felt good for having felt that urge, felt that prompt, and having acted upon it. So the interesting turn in this story is yesterday I was running. I was out on the Swamp Rabbit Trail here in Greenville, and I was about 3 miles into my run, and I was listening to a sermon by Pastor Stephen Furtick, and it was a sermon that he preached at Life Church, which is Pastor Craig Groeschel's church. And in the introduction to his sermon, he talked about the importance of acknowledging people, which I thought was random because it was a very random YouTube search that I went through and found this random sermon to click on and listen to while I was running. And he was talking a lot about, with parents, a lot of times when the things that parents do go unnoticed, it's a good thing because usually it's negative or bad things that go noticed and are brought up in conversation. But when it comes to a pastor that consistently shows up, that's consistently, all in on their ministry and pouring into their people, that it's almost a sin not to acknowledge that, not to take the time to acknowledge this person that's consistently showing up and is such a life force in that community. And as he's talking about the importance of acknowledging people, the very guy that I called out in this live stream comes riding by on a bicycle with his son and waves to me and kind of gives me this nod of this unspoken, hey man, thank you for that. And it's just it was this overwhelming. I got chills as I was running and this thing happened because it all happened very quick. He was coming this way, I was coming that way. And it's just split second, wave, nod, and keep moving. But it was this overwhelming feeling of conviction that man, I'm so glad that I took that opportunity when I felt prompted to talk about this guy and did. And then created this situation where I'm listening to a video talking about acknowledging people, and then the guy walks by or rides by on a bicycle. To make it even crazier, they closed the Swamp Rabbit Trail down the very next day, which is today, so that it's now no longer open to the public because of all this crisis and this COVID-19 stuff going on. And so it's literally the only opportunity the only window of time that could have happened. And the fact that we happened to be on the same part of the trail and passing each other at the exact same time that I was listening to that video is just this, for me, confirmation and an affirmation from God that I did the right thing. And so I tell that story to really urge you and encourage you and to challenge you that when you ever see somebody doing good, acknowledge it. When you see somebody in the way that they just show up on a daily basis and their attitude and their work ethic or a myriad of things that you could acknowledge them for, take that time to do that, because number one, you never know what that person may be going through during that season. It could be, horrible at home. They could have gone through a tragedy of loss of life of a family member, or maybe they have a family member that's sick, or maybe they're just in a state right now amidst all this crisis where there's a lot of fear and uncertainty in regards to finances, in regards to their business, in regards to their lifestyle and things like that. You never know what somebody's going through and how powerful your acknowledgement of them could be. And the second thing is, anytime I'm prompted like that, I know that there's a deeper reason behind it. And so anytime something that is good, not something just in general, but anytime something that is good is prompted in your spirit, man, there's power in responding. And whether you want to say that's from God, or whether you want to say that's from the universe, or whether you want to say that's from your gut, however you define that, that's fine. But responding to those prompts, a good friend of mine, Chris Vester, calls them God winks. Whenever you respond, good things will happen. And for me, it became such a powerful moment for me in something that I was trying to create a powerful moment for somebody else. But we live in a world where, we go through our day, we got our head down, we do our work, we go home, and we miss out on so many opportunities to not only acknowledge people, but deepen and build those relationships with people. And these may be people that are around us every day. These may be people that we, like in that example, that have never actually hung out with one-on-one. But there is power in your words. And my business partner, Joseph Caldwell, who a lot of times is on the Sales Wolves podcast here with me, he talks about the fact that you can't sprinkle fairy dust on yourself. You can only do that for other people. So when we have a lot of events and meetings, we will strategically have our introductions done in a way that we can acknowledge the person that we're introducing for how powerful they are and how much they mean to this organization and how much they mean to the individuals that are in the room that are about to hear from them. Like, I can tell people how just an amazing visionary leader Joseph is, and how he's thinking 5-10 years down the road, and how, he spends every waking hour of his day focused on the people that we work with and focused on our mission. I can say that about him in a way that he cannot say about himself. He can say those same things. I'm thinking about you guys all the time. But when I say it, there's magic behind that, and there's power behind that. And so just be cognizant of the power that you have, and be even more aware of the power that you are keeping locked inside you. That you have power every single day to just acknowledge one person. If you just made a commitment to one person each day, I'm just going to show appreciation. I'm going to acknowledge. I'm going to speak life into someone every day. And I promise you, the result will not only be beneficial in those relationships with those people, but what it does for you internally, what it does for your mental health and well-being, what it does for your spiritual growth, what it does for your soul as you start acknowledging things in other people. And it's not one of those reciprocity things like I'm going to acknowledge this guy in hopes that someone's going to acknowledge me for something down the road. It has nothing to do with that. It is a selfless act purely designed to be able to brighten someone's day, maybe be a light in a dark place for someone that you may not even be aware of. And at the very, very, very least, it's just the right thing to do. And so when you see good, say good. When you see people doing things that are of value, be of value to them. And use your words for the power that they hold by acknowledging them for those things. I can promise you this. When you look back on your life, people will remember those times where you acknowledged them. People will remember that random time on a Facebook Live when you took 3 or 4 minutes out just to speak these incredible words over somebody. Because, and I've said this before on the podcast, but I'll say it again. At the end of your life, you will not be remembered for the things that you did. You will not be remembered for the goals that you accomplished, for the wealth that you created, for the different things that you built. You'll be remembered by the way you made people feel. And there's no more tangible way for you to make someone feel valued than by speaking your powerful words over them and into them. And so I just challenge you guys, take this next week, take this next month, and every day, you may have to put a reminder in your phone because this isn't something that you might be doing on a regular basis as it is. And if you are, kudos to you. You're a great person. Congratulations. But be intentional over this next week, over this next month, to just one person a day, acknowledge them for who they are and for who you see in them. And I promise you, your life will benefit because of it. So with that, guys, this is episode 165 of the Sales Wolves podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Jack Harris, and I am a sales wolf. Ow!
Cool, right? So here's what I want you to do. Click the button below this video to claim your free trial.